150,000 apprehensions and almost 50,000 reported gotaways during the month. Joining us now to discuss, Congressman Brian Babin, knows all too well, Republican from Texas here. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on. In addition to what I just showed you there, I'll show you this latest data on border apprehensions. Another report on the border finding the amount of deportations under President Biden has plummeted down here. According to the 2021 ICE annual report, the agency says this: they sent out 55,000 illegal immigrants during the 2021 fiscal year. That is down 70%. So that's the headline there compared to 2020, yet the numbers rise historically. That's the fewest number in 5 years here. What's happening, and how is Texas having to handle this problem?
Well, what's happening is the Biden administration has just done away with all of the great policies that the Trump administration had implemented. And you cannot control our border without having what we call interior enforcement. That means that if someone comes in illegally, they've had their day in court, their case has been adjudicated, they have been ordered removed from the United States. That is called interior enforcement when you deport them. They have stopped doing that, virtually stopped it. I mean, it's down 70%. So that tells you that only the worst of the worst of the worst are being deported, and that's very, very few. And so as a consequence, we've got drugs, we've got human trafficking, we've got 100,000 plus overdoses and deaths of Americans, and we've got an incompetent president and a derelict Mayorkas, Secretary of Department of Homeland Security.
And that brings me to my next point, because a group of House Republicans, including yourself, sent a letter to DHS Secretary Mayorkas calling on him to resign, saying in part, quote, this is for the viewers here, our nation is facing increases in criminal gang activity, human trafficking, drug smuggling at the hands of your decisions to circumvent the law and handcuff U.S. Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials, end quote. Just a snippet there. That was from Congressman Hearn. That letter comes just after border agents confronted the secretary over the administration's immigration policies. Watch this.
Look, it's worse now than it frankly has been in at least 20 years, if not ever. I know the policies of this administration are not particularly popular with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, but that's a reality, and let's see what we can do within that framework. And let me just say, you can turn your back on me, but I'll never turn my back on you.
You did the day you were appointed.
Your thoughts on how the Border Patrol responded to the secretary?
Their morale is in the cellar. They've been thrown to the curb, kicked to the curb by the Secretary of Homeland Security. You go back to the whipping incident. He immediately branded them as racist, and they would pay the price. And the only reason he was doing that is because Biden did the exact same thing. And come to find out, we can't even get the the report on this whipping incident on our mounted Border Patrol. They're absolutely demoralized. They're doing things that they were never trained to do, and being able to witness and absolutely preside over a border that is the worst in the history of the United States. It couldn't be worse, and this man, Mayorkas, needs to go. He needs to resign. He's a pathetic excuse for a Department of Homeland Security secretary, and he works for a pathetic, incompetent president. It's horrible what we're seeing down on the border, and this administration is complicit in the drug trade now. It is complicit in the human trafficking, the sex trade. The cartels have been empowered. They've been unleashed. They're making up to 14 million a day. Down on our border. It is an absolute travesty.
Heads don't roll much in this administration, as you've seen, despite calls for it. I want to get really quickly to this, too, as well. Vice President Kamala Harris reportedly heading to Europe to help secure Ukraine's border at the Munich Security Conference next week. But critics are pointing out what I'm sure you already know. She was assigned to find the root causes of migration and what's happening obviously at the border. That has not been solved, just according to facts alone, the numbers alone. And many are left to wonder, many Americans, and really folks like yourself in Texas who have to deal with this firsthand, how can you expect her to do anything if she didn't even handle her own country's border? Some people point out, which one are you really concerned with, the border on Ukraine or the southern Mexico border?
Well, it's quite apparent that they're more concerned with the Ukrainian border than they are with our own border and the lives and security of American citizens. They have simply just thrown out the window our national security with their policies down at the border. And again, we've got total incompetency, or I think you can't look at this border problem without seeing that this is a grand strategy on the part of the Democratic Party. And the reason I say that is because not only have 2 million have come across the border in the last year, but they've tried repeatedly to put millions of illegals on a pathway to citizenship and the right to vote. In fact, New York and California have allowed, illegal aliens to vote in their local and state elections. And the next step is to vote for the President of the United States and for their elected Congress members and senators, et cetera. And so this is what they're trying to do. I don't think you can look at this in any other way, besides this.
And again, a lot of pointing out human trafficking and drug smuggling that is coming